The top 20 prospects that the Buffalo Bills have met with pre-draft. We can draw some conclusions here, and I have it listed down below, the best available per Pro Football Focus compared to the Buffalo Bills meetings pre-draft. All the players, all 58 players that we have met with. You guys could check it down below. I guarantee you all of the Bills draft picks are going to be down there, and they're ranked from top to bottom. So the Buffalo Bills, the top 20 prospects of those 58 players, I looked at the top 20, right, potential first-round picks for the Buffalo Bills, and we could draw some conclusions from that, as well as all the other players on this list. Welcome to my channel, guys. Bills News Consolidated. We got to discuss it. Brandon Beane's draft board, his best available players here. I think each and every single one of us needs to print this out, cross off the names as they come due here, and draw some conclusions as to where Brandon Beane's going to go. But the top 20 prospects that Brandon Beane has met with, he's actually met with 5 wide receivers. He's met with 3 tight ends, only 2 offensive tackles, 2 defensive tackles, and 2 linebackers, 1 guard, 1 center, 1 cornerback, 1 safety, and 1 defensive end. Literally every single position we have met with, other than quarterback, punter, and kicker. So we can clearly say that, one, Bills could potentially draft any position in the first round of this year's NFL draft, but you could say, okay, well, we spent time with 5 wide receivers and actually 3 tight ends. So statistically here, the Buffalo Bills have the highest chance of selecting either a wide receiver or a tight end with that first overall pick. Now, you could take a look at the draft selections below and the overall rankings, and we can see that guys like linebacker really don't make sense for that number 1, 27th overall pick. It would be ideal to maybe get that linebacker a little bit later in the NFL draft. The other thing that I see here is that the Buffalo Bills have spent a lot of time overall with wide receiver. Out of the 58 players that we spent time with pre-draft, whether it was virtual meetings or at the combine or pro days, all these players, the Buffalo Bills spent time with wide receiver the most, 11 wide receivers. And you could see the list here. There are so many wide receivers. The number 1 guy on my list for Bills Mafia has always been Jackson Smith-Njigba, playing in zone at Ohio State, playing against zone coverage, and that's exactly what teams do against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. But Jordan Addison, Tank Dell, Josh Downs, Zay Flowers is definitely starting to grow on me. I know a lot of people were disappointed with his 40 time. He ran a little bit slower of a 40 time, and he's not the biggest player in the world. But there's a guy out there that I trust a lot, and that is Steve Smith, an actual Carolina Panther going back to him. But Steve Smith, a great Hall of Fame wide receiver, has been diving into these rookies coming out past several seasons and listening to him talk about Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jordan Addison, Tank Dell, Zay Flowers, and how hyped up he is. Even Jalen Hyatt. All these guys are potential draft picks for the Buffalo Bills, and it makes sense. The Bills are definitely going to be selecting, most likely, a wide receiver to come in to compete with Gabe Davis, to compete with Trent Sherfield, even Deontay Hardy, who are basically here on 1-year deals. Even a guy like Damian Harris on a 1-year deal, the running back position. The Bills have spent time with a lot of players here, and some players actually twice. Jordan Addison was a player that we spent time with twice, as well as Tajee Spears, a running back that the Bills really spent a lot of time with here, and I think could very well draft him to come in and just kind of compete. Roschon Johnson, the backup to Bijan Robinson, right? But Bijan was also here, and he was actually the best ranked player per Pro Football Focus that the Bills actually interviewed here. So if Bijan Robinson is there for the Buffalo Bills at 27th overall, I really think we're definitely probably going to select him. But I don't know if he's going to actually be there. Now, some other sleepers that the Bills really need to keep in mind here, it's center. The Bills spent a lot of time with center. So you take a look. The Bills spent time with 4 offensive tackles, and we spent time with 3 centers and only 1 offensive guard. So Osiris Torrance was the only guard that the Buffalo Bills spent time with, probably because of the free agent signings that we had between Edwards, McGovern, Ike Bucker, bringing all these guys in to that interior. But the Bills are looking ahead for Mitch Morris here. It's clear as day. Juice shrugs from Penn State, we had a virtual meeting with. John Mitchell Schmitz, center, a top 20 prospect, right? Could maybe even be a first-round pick for the Buffalo Bills at 27th overall, depending on how things shake out here. But another guy we could potentially find a little bit later. He's a nasty edge player, is Joe Tittman from Wisconsin, a center. Maybe he could play a little bit of guard too, but he's just got that edge. He's got that nasty to him. I think the Bills could definitely be eyeing him up. Now, we all know linebacker is really the biggest concern for the Bills. Now, the top players we've met with here, right? Nolan Smith, really kind of like an outside linebacker for Georgia. But again, if he slips through the NFL draft, I'm sure Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott are going to be drooling at Nolan Smith. But the guys that we really spent time with, again, Byron Young from Tennessee, Trenton Simpson, Drew Sanders, and also Derek Hall we had a virtual meeting with as well. So I think this is something the Bills really need to eye up, as well as tight end, right? 3 tight ends in the top 20 prospects for the Buffalo Bills. Could Bills Mafia select tight end 27th overall? And it could be. I mean, you got Michael Mayer, Darnell Washington. These guys are some talents, man. And Darnell Washington, I've been saying that this offseason, last year, Bobby Hart had an 11.5% snap count on this offense. Third string tackle for Bills Mafia had an 11.5% snap count because we used them in 3 tackle sets in these big run packages, right? Trying to slug teams in there. Now you couple that with Damian Harris, right? And I really think the Buffalo Bills could maybe get a guy like Darnell Washington to have that 11.5 snap count as that third tackle that we used last year, but he's a tight end and also has that threat to go out and catch it. I really love what that would present to defenses, and I really think tight end, to bring in another tight end here to compete with Quentin Morris, even Dawson Knox. I love Dawson Knox, but he's not like the biggest tight end in the world. You go back to Lee Smith, setting that edge, just being a great run blocker for this offense. We all know we wanted to protect Josh Allen, right? We wanted to protect Josh Allen. But other positions we looked at was obviously defensive tackle is a dire need for the Bills. And what I found very interesting here, the 5 defensive tackles that we spent time with, Zach Pickens, Jervon Dexter, Roy Mozzie Smith, Brian Bressie. Just listen to the schools that they went with. South Carolina, Florida, LSU, Michigan, and Clemson. I mean, these are some top-notch programs. They're all around like 2nd to 3rd round picks, and they're plug-and-play starters. I think, knowing that the rotation on this defensive line, we can bring these guys in from great programs and come in and contribute. Other positions, we only spent time with 4 cornerbacks, but one of them was in the top 20 prospects. I really like what we're doing there. 7 safeties, 5 defensive ends too. Make sure you guys checked out that list down below. I spent a few hours on that assembling it. You guys are going to find a lot of insight to it. But if you enjoyed this video, please hit like, subscribe for future content. Honestly, that's what it really supports this channel. So it would really mean the world. Just hit that like button, subscribe. Check you guys soon. Go Bills.